Now, the significance of August 1st, Emancipation Day, to me, it is a period of reflection and of continuing to tell the story. Now, I remember an experience I had when I first went to Canada. There was a book written by an American, Alex Haley, called Roots. And when I went to Canada, it was then a television series. What I found is that a lot of incensed parents refused to allow their children to look at that television series because there was something about slavery that they wanted to keep hidden and could not confront the Canadian friends with it. Now, this book and television series is about somebody who was entitled Kunta Kinte. And Kunta Kinte, during the 18th century, was captured and taken from Africa and carried it to America. It is really a fictional character, but it is said that it also has part of the story of Alex Haley's ancestors. Now, it occurred to me also that one of the problems is how history was taught in school for those persons who were able to do history in school. And I always refer to an African proverb which says, "Until a lion has its historian, tales of hunting will always glorify the hunter." And in the case of the persons who did history in school at that time, the hunters were Europeans who wrote the history of our own people. And a lot of us growing up believing that and feeling ashamed of who we are. But there was so much positive about our ancestors that the story really needed to be told. For one, they never accepted slavery from the time they were captured in Africa until they came to the Caribbean or to the Americas. They never accepted slavery. And one of the things about slavery in the Caribbean is that it was what is called chattel slavery. That is, the slaves were the property of the planters, and I'll say some more about that. But having gone through a period of slavery, our ancestors came up with their humanity intact. We have only experienced 72 years of slavery. That is, slavery incidents lasted from 1766 until 1834. Because when St. Vincent was colonized and went into the production of sugar, and slavery became a part of our society, places like Barbados and the Leeward Islands have been experiencing slavery since the 1640s. Now, people ask all the time, why didn't they revolt against the situation? They understood the reality is, the fact was, that there was always a militia on the ground, and there were always military forces in the region ready to come at the request of planters. But I said that they never accepted slavery, and what they did, they found ways of reacting and resisting slavery. For one, they pretended to be stupid. They did not understand the instructions that were given to them. And those persons who wrote the history book were speaking about how stupid these people were. They could not understand the simple instructions. But this was a deliberate ploy. And that was part of the way they were reacting. They stole from the plantation estates, they lied. There was a lot of insubordination. They killed the livestock, they plundered, they set fires to the estates and fires to the machinery, because obviously fires to the estates and to the machinery would damage the planters and affect their ability to, they plundered and they pretended to be sick. Very often, planters would say that there were a number of people who were ill and had to go to the hospital, or what was called the hospital. When they went to what was really a sick house, the doctors, or who pretended to be doctors, found nothing wrong with them. But that was one of their ways of dealing with the situation. Some of them committed suicide. We have examples of what is called infanticide. And there's a particular example where 3 persons, a mother and 2 other women, plotted to kill her child because she did not want her child to undergo slavery and to undergo the kind of experiences which she had. Many ran away from the estates for short periods, and in fact we have situations where when emancipation came, some of the enslaved persons realized that their other half, husband or wife, was somewhere else in some other country where they were sold. The damage, as I said, tools and machinery that caused the pain. There were individual killings, and one famous killing was in Cairo in 1809, when a lady who was celebrated in Cairo, Nellie Igbo, plotted with others to kill the owner of the estate. Eventually, they were found. Nellie was executed in Cairo, but her other friends were brought to St. and suffered the same fate. One of the other things that I think Lecoq mentioned it, Joe mentioned it, was that we have neglected the role of the slaves in the destruction of slavery. And he made mention of a book, The Slaves Who Abolished Slavery. We had put a lot of emphasis on people like William Wilberforce and who we call the humanitarians, not realizing that the people who forced that issue were the enslaved themselves. So we have in 1791 the revolution in Haiti, and this revolution in Haiti shocked the world, because what the Europeans felt is that if it happened in Haiti, it could possibly happen elsewhere. And in fact, Eric Williams, in one of his master books on slavery called Capitalism and Slavery, said that at that stage, it was either emancipation from above or emancipation from below. That is, emancipation by Parliament or House of Commons and House of Lords, or emancipation by the slaves themselves. Now, a lot of things began to happen. In 1860, you had in Barbados what was called the Busa Rebellion, which again shocked the planters. And once that rebellion took place in Barbados, they declared martial law in St. Vincent because they assumed that the enslaved people in St. Vincent were going to follow the example of those from Barbados. So martial law was declared, and you had a period where they expected a similar reaction to the enslaved in St. Vincent. I want to mention briefly, although it's a very complex story, but the role of religion, and in this case, the role of Methodism. The Methodist religion came to St. Vincent in 1787. But before the religion came to St. Vincent, John Wesley, one of the founders of Methodism, had already written about slavery, where he said, "I absolutely deny all slaveholding to be inconsistent with any degree of national justice." So he declared from very early his opposition to slavery. So once the Methodists arrived in St. Vincent in 1787, there were planters who felt that they were going to follow and carry out the dictates of John Wesley. And there are a few incidents in St. Vincent. In 1791, persons broke into the Methodist church, damaged the church, and interestingly enough, they stole the Bible and actually hung the Bible on the gallows because they considered the Methodists to be guilty of subversive activity. Soon after that, they declared that any Methodist missionary who wanted to preach would have to have a license. And one of the preachers at that time, a man called Matthew Long, refused to go along with that. He was taken and put in prison. But later on, after the person who was in charge of Methodism in the region, Dr. Pope, went to England and appealed to people in England, he was then released from prison. And after that, he lived in England. Now we have the abolition of the slave trade in 1807. And it was hoped that once the slave trade was abolished and they were no longer able to get slaves to come to slave basin, that it would lead to the end of slavery. That did not happen. Things continued as usual. And the planters were accused of illegally bringing in enslaved people who were enslaved into slavery. So they had to go in, and instead of the abolition of slavery, the emphasis was now on the abolition. Instead of the abolition of slave trade, emphasis was now on the abolition of slavery. The planters in St. Vincent reacted strongly to this. They argued that their property in St. Vincent was valued at £47 million. When they said their property in St. Vincent, they were actually speaking about the enslaved. But the British government gave them £20 million, and the planters in the region as a whole had valued their property at £47 million. The British gave them £20 million. And what they did was to introduce a period called apprenticeship between 1834 and 1838, where the people were not, they still had to undergo slavery. They had to work for the planters for 3/4 of the working period of the week. The Vincentian planters in the 1834 of that £20 million got 592,509 pounds. That was given to the Vincentian planters. Now, that 592,509 million pounds is today equivalent to about 90 million pounds. So one could understand what was happening. And today, when they speak about reparation, all of those are things which have to be taken into account. That the value of the money given to the planters now equivalent to about 90 million pounds. In 1834, when the original Act of Slavery was passed, there were 15,309 enslaved field workers. And I should point out that the majority of field workers on the sugar estates were women. There were 2,793 domestic workers. That is, people who work in the homes of the planters. And there were children under 6 years of age, 2,959, and persons who are aged or incapacitated, 1,189. These people were freed in 1834, but the others had to undergo this period of apprenticeship. I said that women were made up the majority of field workers, but also the women were the main agitators. Most of the disturbances and most of the actions led by women, not by the men. And the fate of the women really something to behold. For one, you have instances of women who were pregnant, and up to a month before they were to deliver their baby, they had to work in the field. after they had delivered their baby, they were forced back onto the estates to work. So the fate and the plight of women, and what a lot had been written about that at that time, but now we have a lot more emphasis on that. One of the other areas in which the enslaved reacted was through song, to what today we recognize as the calypso. Now, a plantation owner, Mrs. Allison Carmichael, before the enslaved, put in impromptu words to their song. She mocked the Negro dialect. A stipendary magistrate who took up a position in St. Vincent after 1834 wrote about the song which these enslaved people sang. He said that they were burlesque in point of composition, referring to their comic and absurd nature and what we now know as the means of fooling the plant. They were singing about the plant, the native plant, and they never understood what these people were singing about. But they were mocking them and referring to the nonsense which they were singing. But all of the other enslaved knew what they were singing about and they were quite familiar with the stories. Now, just to go on, it was these same enslaved people who were eventually freed in 1838 who built the villages in St. Vincent. At one time in St. Vincent, almost everywhere were estates with the exception of the towns. Chapel, Barley, Leo, Chandlerport, Kingstown. Georgetown was late. Georgetown did not come into existence until about 1812. But very early, you would hear the names of estates, like you might hear of Evesham Village, and Evesham Village would have been named after Evesham Estate. So most of the villages we performed came out of the estate. So as the people left the estate, either by renting land from the plantation owners of our land, the estate or the villages were named after the estate. So from a matter of 6 established towns or centers, by 1861, you had hundreds of these villages. And one of the earliest villages was Victoria Village, which was formed in 1844. And from 1844 until 1861, you have a number of villages being established. The other important point I want to mention about these people who were enslaved was that from very early, from the 1840s, they were actually selling rum provisions and other produce to Barbados and Trinidad, like boats going to Barbados and Trinidad. And later on, particularly after 1899, when you had the establishment of cotton as a major industry, they were very strong in the production of cotton and therefore arrow. And when you look at the figures of the export of cotton and arrow from 1903 or 1904 to the 1950s, just before banana came in, the people who were planting most of these crops were the small farmers and peasants. You had, after slavery, continued uprisings and resistance because the people who were now free were not prepared to accept the kind of wages which were offered to them. So they went on strike, they objected in many ways, and you have a famous riot in 1861 or 1863. You have, and I should just mention this in passing, because these same enslaved people who in 1879 participated in the annual riot which took place in Kingstown. They had an attachment to Africa, and in 1888, when King Jaja, most of you might have heard about King Jaja from Nigeria, was exiled to St. Vincent, on the day that Jaja was to, he entered St. Vincent on a Saturday, which was a market day, and the authorities refused to allow Jaja off the boat. because they feared uprising by market people who identified strongly with Jaja being an African. I must also mention, when we talk about reparations, that St. Vincent, even though it started late in the production of sugar, between 1805 and 1829, it was the second producer of sugar in the Eastern Caribbean, including Barbados, Trinidad, the second only to Jamaica. The second in the Caribbean, second only to Jamaica. And that we owe to the work of the Kalinago and the Garifuna, and the people who were called Caribs. It was their struggles that prevented the planters from occupying these lands until very late. So much, we were one of the last countries in the Caribbean who have undergone slavery. And to that, as I said, we owe thanks to the Garifuna people. So there's a lot to be said about slavery and the emancipation, a lot more than we could cover now. But it is important to bear in mind, and on any August 4th Emancipation Day, regardless of the other activities which we are undertaking, I believe we should find time to reflect, to tell the story, because the story we have to tell now is a new one, because it is people, Caribbean people, and other people who are more conscious, who are now writing the history of our enslaved people. So let us, every August Monday, set aside some time to reflect on that. But I want to leave you with this point that our ancestors from the very beginning, from the time they left Africa until they got to whichever part of the Caribbean they were going to, they never gave up. They continued to resist even after slavery. Today, we have lost that. We have lost what our ancestors have taught us, that power to resist and to ensure that we fight for our rights. That we need to understand more of how to do that. And hopefully, it will impact on us as we move forward. So I want to thank you very much for listening.